Hi everyone, and welcome to another live Google Hangout here on the Desteni I Process channel. In today's Hangout, we're continuing with our series on the physical body and physical body support from a Desteni and a Destonian perspective. And in this specific Hangout, we're talking about the topic how we change when we change our clothes, or the question, are you what you wear? And in this Hangout, you can ask questions to the panel, and you can leave comments and share your perspectives on how you've changed when you change clothes, or any insights that you've had about it, or how you maybe see others differently depending on what clothes they have on. And you do that through our Google event link. If you're on YouTube watching, you have to click on the link in the lower left corner, and that will take you to our Google event page where you can ask your questions. We will be speaking for about 40 minutes, so make sure to get your question in before then. In today's Hangout, we have three lovely guests with us, and we have Sylvia with us from the Netherlands. Hey, Sylvia.
Hi, Anna.
Hi. And we have Ruben with us from Spain.
Hello.
Hola.
Thanks. Hola.
And we have Carrie with us from the US. Hey, Carrie.
Hi.
So cool to have you guys with us. So let's talk about how it is that we tend to change our experience of ourselves when we change clothes. How that's something that you've experienced in your own life. Let's start with you, Carrie. How have you experienced yourself changing when you change your clothes?
I actually will change personalities. Like, I was noticing that, like, when I change into my work clothes, that I will automatically go into like this work personality where, you know, I'm smiling, I'm happy, I'm attentive, I'm responsive, I'm positive, and yet at the same time, you know, I'm professional about it. And it's like the moment that I put on my uniform, I assume this personality, and I'll continue all the way through work and even to when I get home. And if I don't take my uniform off like right away, I'll start cleaning or working or doing things that I would normally do at work. And what is interesting is like the moment that I change into like my pajamas or my comfortable clothes, I relax. You know, and, you know, I just want to hang out and just do, you know, something to just entertain myself and unwind after a long day. And another interesting thing is, like, if I go into work in, like, my casual clothes, like my street clothes, my jeans, my t-shirt, my flip-flops, even though I'm in that same environment, it's like when I'm in my jeans and my t-shirt and my flip-flops, I've got this casual, laid-back personality, and I'm not so much aware of what's going on with the people around me, and I definitely do not want to do any work, and I just kind of want to hang out and chill out. And so my clothes will definitely determine what I'm doing and who I'm going to be, and what I'm paying attention to at the moment.
Do you find that it's something that happens immediately as you put your clothes on, like as you're putting them on, or does it take a little while before you morph into this other personality?
With me, it's immediately, because I've gotten to the point where I have clothes, like specific clothes that are designated for certain activities. I've got my comfortable clothes. I've got my clothes that I'll put on when I go out to hang out with the family. And I've got my work clothes. And I've worn these clothes so many times for these activities that it's just become automatic.
Interesting. How about you, Ruben? Is that something that you can recognize, or how have you experienced this point of changing your experience of yourself when you change your clothes?
For me, it's been an experience also because I've worked with different clothes, from like working with in chemistry in the laboratory, and you change like in a doctor like kind of thing. And also I have worked with police, but not directly as a police, but more directing people in town. And it's like a powerful stance. You get your clothes, and then you are more, and also you know more if you are in a laboratory with different clothes. But also it's like, for me, it's very interesting because like, how did I get to wear this and be around these people like in the laboratory or in the, it's simply like whether I did a test or whether I applied for this job. So it's, for me, it's like more like a game. Not like a game, but that I see it's not real. That it's only that I was able to access this position, and then I get to wear these clothes, and it's fun, but it's not that I define myself as that. But it's very interesting that other people do see you differently. Like also, for example, the other day I was putting my laboratory clothes, and then another peer of mine said like, "Wow, you look like a doctor," or something like that, and like after a while you get like also the stance of like, I don't know, like you really act a bit, I mean, I don't know, maybe I act different, or maybe it was like you get used to being the clothes on.
Because the laboratory coat is like associated not just for you but culturally with the doctor, and so we kind of go into these not only personal roles or personalities but even cultural as well, as you were saying with the uniform.
Yes, it's like it's more than what it is for socially. It's like a symbol.
Yeah.
And the police clothes, it's like power also, because for one time I was in the bus and I was going to this job where I work with the police and helping them with directing traffic after school and stuff. And I didn't want to put on the clothes because I was not yet in the job. But then an incident occurred, and some guy started to act violently. And then I put on the suit and I said, I work with the police, and if you don't stop, I will go and call and so on. And then this guy ran away. And yeah, so that's it. It's like roles that we agreed that these doctors go with this type of clothes, and police, and everyone accepted. It's because of the agreement, because we agreed that certain people have power, are able to do certain stuff, and they dress like that.
Absolutely, because you're saying that, well, I'm actually not a doctor, I'm actually not a policeman, but just by putting on those symbols, other people will think that I am.
Well, yeah, I was trained to do certain things, but yeah, it's like I am not defined by it as that. It's simply a thing that I do for a living, yeah.
How about you, Sylvia? Is that something that you can relate to, or how have you experienced it in your life?
Yeah, I'm going to just talk a bit further on what Ruben just said about the authority, because I was in my internship as a social worker in a big hospital in Amsterdam, and one evening I had to be on the ER to just experience how it was to be a nurse there. I wasn't a nurse, but just the experience. And then they said, well, just put on the clothes, the white trouser and the top, because then you are really in this experience. So that was funny in a way too. And then the evening started, and there was this doctor came in, and he was just asking, can you do this, can you do that? And then I had to fix a broken pink, and I was like, yeah, but I'm not a nurse, I don't know how to fix this. And he was like, you do it. I know you can do it, you do it. So then another nurse just moved me away from the whole scene and said, shh, go, come along with me, it's okay, he can't make you do this. So I was in another position that I wasn't thinking that I was the nurse, but the other persons thought, just like Ruben said, when I wear the police clothes, then there is this power thing. And when I was a teenager, I started making my own clothes. And then I found out that it was quite cool because I could buy some fabrics that were not in the store. So some kind of a specialness thing appeared here. And I thought, okay, I can wear clothes that are different. So I immediately felt different. And then I found out that these old curtains that I had found were really nice to make a suit from. So I made it. And at that time, I also went to art school. And I thought, wow, I am now artistic. I am it. So that came with the clothes. And then I had a whole period of just wearing flower curtain clothes. And everybody knew me by, well, the curtain. Well, they didn't know. All of them didn't know that it were curtains, but that was funny. Yeah. So that
So we can
you just
actually
feel.
put on. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So we can actually put on clothes or go and buy clothes deliberately to change our experience of ourselves. It's not only something that happens automatically, but we also actually do it deliberately. And I can share a little bit the opposite situation than from what Ruben shared, because I had a period as a teenager where I would deliberately dress down and wear these big hoodies and keep my head, bent towards the ground and kind of wanting to be on the outside of society. And that's also an interesting position to take or to embody, you could say, where suddenly you can become invisible also through the clothes you wear. You can either become accentuated and people notice you, or you can just go into the background, or even be seen as someone that's harmless, someone that's dangerous, or like you said, someone that's like extremely different and very special just because of the clothes we wear. So I want to ask you guys because I also want to talk about what it is that causes this difference. But before that, I want to ask if you have had any experiences towards seeing other people differently, depending on what they were wearing, and also what insights that you've had, also as you've been walking with Desteni in relation to that point of, like we have been discussing, seeing others in those roles of authority and power and these symbols that we come to represent through our clothes. Who wants to go first? Ruben?
For me, I will pass it on to
Okay.
someone.
Do you want to share, Carrie?
Yeah, just expanding on the point that actually Ruben and Sylvia made, where we respond to what other people are wearing with certain expectations of who and what they are. Like, Sylvia, I think it was recently, or it was while we were talking before the hangout, where she mentioned that, she saw a police officer, and she's aware that it's, a person just as equal as her, but the fact that he's wearing a police uniform, she's like, oh, well, it's a police officer. I mean, you change how you interact with people and how you respond to people based on what they're wearing. For me, also, like, this is a point of self-support that I use for myself, is I will notice where I'm judging other people in the way that they look. And then I'll just bring it back to myself and look at, this is actually how I'm judging me. I'm actually saying this stuff to me. So that's how you can kind of use, like, the thoughts that are coming up in response to other people as a point of self-support.
Very cool. Yeah, I was also telling the guys here before we started the hangout of this insight that I've had about being in a public pool, where at least here in Scandinavia, you come in your normal clothes, you go in, and then for me it's the ladies' locker room, and then everyone gets undressed and get naked, and it's like this war happens. It's like you step into this other dimension where everyone is equal by the fact that they're all naked. And there is this in a way. There is no one that is like, well, it could obviously happen, but at least it's very decreased. And you start seeing that, wow, we all look the same. Wow, this is amazing. And then I've noticed something very interesting, that when we then start putting our clothes back on, you could have had like a connection with someone, and then you see, oh, they're this kind of person, like, oh, that's a Muslim, I didn't realize. Where before you were just seeing, well, that's a naked lady, you know, okay, well, she looks like me. And that really made me aware of how much emphasis we put on clothes. It's like we become alive, but obviously that's not, like Ruben was saying, it's not real, but it's like these suits that we put on where, you know, there are only so many categories. You're either this or you're that, you're posh or you're trash, or, and it's such a shame because underneath we're actually much more similar and much more alike than what we think. So is that something that you've also noticed, Sylvia, for yourself?
Yeah, we present ourselves in a way that we like. So when I put on the business suit, I can be a businesswoman. And it doesn't say that I'm a good businesswoman, but I can make the impression. So yeah, in a way, it's the second skin. I was also thinking about, I had these plumbers over, and they are wearing this, well, how do you say, this overall thing. And I immediately think, oh, you can fix it because, hey, you're wearing these clothes, so you must be capable of it. And then, because I do a lot of DIY in my own house too, when I put on this trouser and this dirty shirt, I'm also thinking like, okay, I can plaster that wall. I can do that. So it's funny how that works, because yeah.
Cool. So, guys, I want to ask you a little bit about what it is that causes us to change our experience of ourselves when we change clothes. And I've actually placed, if you're on the Google event page, you'll be able to see a link roll. And I've placed 3 interviews from eQuaf that exactly talks about why and how we change when we change clothes in much more detail. So I definitely suggest to also go and listen to them after the hangout. But what would you guys say? What is the reason why our experience of ourselves change when we change clothes? For example, in your example, Carrie, where you've had this clothes for so long and you're so used to that this clothes symbolizes that role. What have you seen about why it is that we create these roles for ourselves and how?
For me, when I was looking at it, it's a matter of how I was experiencing myself or how I've experienced myself in the past. Like, say that I do go to work and, like, say I change up my uniform a little bit. And, like, there was this one day, like, about a month ago where I was wearing pants that were too tight and I wore them to work, you know. And at work, I want to be just focused on what I'm doing at work. I don't want to be focused on what I'm wearing. And so I had this really obvious muffin top, and it distracted me all day long.
Wait,
and I had
what's
like
a muffin top?
a muffin top is like when your pants are too tight and your stomach just kind of bulges over the top. And it looked disproportionate to me, and it was very distracting. And I had like this awful experience all day just because it was so distracting, and I'm thinking, oh my God, these people must be thinking, oh, she's got this muffin top, she's so disproportionate. And so I just had this awful experience of myself because I was just going completely in my head about it. So when I got home, I put those pants away, took them completely out of my work drawer where I keep all my work clothes, and I never wore them again. And so what I do is I wear the clothes that I know that I'm going to have a positive experience when I wear them. So for me, it's based on what I've done in the past with clothes and what I've worn and the experience that I had while I was wearing those clothes that will determine my actual experience.
Fascinating. So it's based on a repeated memory.
Exactly.
What about you guys, Sylvia and Ruben? Have you have any insight as to why and how we create these experiences of change when we put on different clothes?
I remember now that we are conditioned to do it from carnivals, for example, that they say you want to dress up as what, and then you act like pirate or anything. That's possibly one reason.
And what I see for myself is that it gives me some confidence. So certain clothes give me confidence in what I'm doing, in who I am. And without them, I believe that this confidence isn't there. So that's also an interesting point to consider.
Yeah, in a way we could say that clothes is like an externalization of the mind, with all the mind's personality suits sort of, like I said before, coming to life. We actually have a question from David Whitman, and he's simply asking, what are we talking about here? Hi, David. Thanks for your question. We're talking about how that experience of how we can change our entire experience of ourselves, sometimes even how we walk, how we define ourselves based on change of clothes. That when we change into different clothes, we tend to create a different experience of ourselves. And right now we're talking about why and how that is.
Yes, and
go for it, Ruben.
And also that, what does it say about us if we change when we change clothes? Like, a piece of clothes can make you change? Is it that so?
Yeah, how is that even possible that just by putting on a different sweater or a different dress, you suddenly become a completely different person? Like, you go from being depressed and insecure, and now you're like on top of the world. Like, how is that even possible? And that's also, like, I want to talk about a little bit also about the consequences of going into these experiences. You know, but first, I just wanted to share that point of how, for me, what I've seen is also the deliberateness of it, how the consumerist system, maybe especially for ladies, but also for males in a different way, that it's playing on it. And I've had very much these desires to go out and buy something, buy a piece of clothing that was then supposed to change my experience of myself. And you then see advertisements and commercials of these lovely, you know, slender, tall ladies with super long hair who are having these romances or whatever on the beach, and that then prompts you, or it prompted me to think, oh, and it, you know, it's not even something that you consciously think. You just, like, kind of like a zombie, you just act on it. And then I went to the store and I bought the thing, and okay, it looked okay, and you know, oh, now I've upgraded myself, or I brought myself into this new, like this, I created this new value of myself. And then I come home and it could maybe even last to the first 2 times I wear the item, but very quickly it just becomes yet another part of my wardrobe. It loses that magic thing that it was supposed to give me. And it's like, I told the panel about this before the hangout, that it's like, no matter what I do, no matter how much clothes I wear, I cannot really change my experience of myself, you know, on a deeper level, which goes back to what Ruben was asking. Like, how is it that clothes can change how we experience ourselves in the first place? Did you guys want to add something to that?
Well, it's also cool when you, and as a teenager, for instance, can just experiment with it. Because I have a teenage daughter, and she likes to experiment with it. One day she is in jeans, the other day she's like almost like a punk. So that's also cool to do experience these different personalities, but not going into it. Just seeing it as it's like a role, like when you are you play in a play as an actor, then you just take on another costume, and you, well, then also you change personality. But you can do that without disappearing within this personality. So that's cool for also for parents to just practice this with their kids. That it's not, the clothes are not who they are.
Very cool, Sylvia. Carrie, did you want to add something to that?
No.
Okay, then we have a question from Peter, and he is asking if the clothes you are wearing are just to protect you in situations like do-it-yourself projects. Does that also change who you are? My personal experience is that I feel more secure and confident, goggles, ear protection, etc. We know that you're the DI, or Carrie, I know that you're also doing do-it-yourself projects. I don't know about you, Ruben. Have you experienced this that Peter is describing?
Can you repeat exactly what he's asking? Like,
well, he's asking you know, these if you, for example, do it yourself, it could, I think another example could be if you go camping and you're wearing like camping equipment and good boots that you can walk in water, that you, for example, feel more secure or more confident to embrace the nature or the wilderness, for example.
I have something about it because it's interesting. Some people would even compromise their safety for looks. Like when I was in the laboratory, we have to wear these goggles, and some people didn't want to. We have acid around, you know, and they didn't want to put the big ass goggles because of looks. So for me, it was silly. First I had the biggest of them all, and then I reduced to a little bit smaller. But I didn't care because I care for my eyes and not how other people look me. And even I am in the laboratory to do the stuff, not to, you know, look for a partner or something like that. So
that would actually be one of the consequences where we're actually compromising ourselves to be presented a certain way or for others to see us a certain way. Carrie and Sylvia, I'm interested in hearing from you guys. Is that something that you, as ladies, have done, where you have compromised, for example, your safety or your body in some way, like high heel shoes, to present yourself in a different way? Carrie, you're nodding.
All of the above. I have worn heels. I have worn the most uncomfortable shoes that you can imagine, all because it might make me look taller or make it so that, you know, I can walk or move my body a certain way, but it's killing my feet. I mean, yeah, if something looks good, yeah, I will definitely compromise like my whole physical comfortableness just to look good. So that's a really good point. I've done that so many times, and I've done it since I was a teenager, even, you know, to the point of not wanting to wear, you know, a hat and mittens and gloves when it's below 0 outside, all because, you know, it doesn't look good.
Absolutely. I see teenagers doing that here in Sweden every winter, and I'm just like, oh God, but I did the exact same when I was a teenager. You know, like, no, it's not cool to wear a jacket. Like, who came up with that? Who came up with that you shouldn't protect your like, what kind of fashion statement is that? But it could also be, I've actually looked at this before, it's quite interesting that when you wear less clothes, it can also indicate that you have a car. Because when you have a car, you don't have to, you can have the heat of the car. I didn't have a car, so that's why I could see the difference probably. Like when you can just, you know, you don't even have to wear a bag because you're just like in and out, or you can take cabs. So, you know, there can be these like deeper levels of cultural difference implied that we don't even consider.
But it's also like you want to present yourself as having a car. So
right.
That's like a desire. But I think I'm the opposite of you guys, because I never did those things. Well, I had high heels, but not so high. So I'm just too practical for those things, I think. Yeah.
Good for you. That's good.
That is good.
But the not so cool part is that as I told before, I had this specialness about it. So I also saw myself outside of all this. So I wasn't part of it. So that's not cool. So there's also consequences in that.
Yeah, and that can be the same as the fashion statement of having to look like you just stepped out of bed, but in fact you've spent like 3 hours on making yourself look that way, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like who you are and what you're presenting, there's like meters or feet away, which I could see as it also creates distance between people, because who are we then when we're communicating with each other? Are we these suits? And where is the realness? Where is the authenticity of who we are?
Yeah, it is. And another point that I started doing is I started a business, and I hadn't been working like this for a long time. So I was wondering how people were behaving, how businesswomen would behave. So I started observing them and seeing, okay, what kind of accessory do they have? What kind of hair? I'm still confused with the hair. Like, oh, should I do it short or longer? What is more? Where's more power in it? Because I now try to just use it, not just go with it all like a big wave of emotions, but just use it, because people expect something from you. Like the policemen, they don't expect them to just have well, a normal top and then a swimming short underneath it. I mean, that's weird. So there's an expectation. There's these symbols, what you were talking about earlier. So you have to take responsibility for that too, because otherwise you make chaos and you just well, have the opposite of what you want. So that was a cool experience of just looking at others and seeing how and what to wear. Yeah.
Cool. Guys, I want to talk a little bit about how we can then support ourselves through the clothes that we wear. But first we have a question from Bitya, and she's asking, do you have any perspective on the effect that fashion has on society generations? It's interesting to see how fashion evolves along with the values of society. For example, during the hippie era, I saw fashion related with the environmental feminist peace movements. Some feminists would, for example, stop wearing bras, etc. Interesting question, Bitya. Thanks for asking that. So how do you see how the societal development and the fashion is like correlated? Do you see that in any way?
Yes, and it depends on if you want to just join it or just be the opposite of it. So you get two groups of people. Yeah. But indeed, all the video clips with females with hardly any clothes on, you see that. You see that already in kindergarten. Even when my kids were in kindergarten, we had certain girls that just wore like these tops where you could see the belly button. Well, for a 4-year-old, I think that's a bit early to dress like that. But it happened. So it's also kind of imprinting that society does on us through the fashion.
Yeah, and at the same time, you could also say, well, it's just a belly button. What's wrong with that? So it's also because that already has a charge to it. It already has associations.
That's the point. For the child, there's nothing wrong because they're just having nice clothes. But the adults, can they cope with it? That's the point.
Right. Ruben or Carrie, did you guys want to add anything to that question?
Yes. Yes, also fashion, it's like if you follow fashion or like, for example, now recently there was these sunglasses with colors that everyone here started wearing them, or many other, you know, fashion styles that come up that if you follow them, like you are more accepted. So it's like society rewards you if you follow what fashion dictates in a way. So it rewards the sheep, it rewards if you conform. So it's another way of manipulation. If you accept what we dictate, then we reward yourself, because if you follow fashion, it's more likely that you will, for example, I don't know, if you go out to parties, it will be easier to engage.
Absolutely. This is a very important point, and especially for children going into their teens, where it becomes really brutal and difficult, especially if I didn't have access to all the fashionable things when I was growing up and being that age, and even now, I mean, it's even worse. And it's expected that you're able to buy expensive items too, which is quite absurd, really, because it's only a small percentage of people who are able to buy expensive items. So like you were saying, Sylvia, that you look like you have a car, for example, you look like you have money, but maybe you don't have food in your fridge because you have to present this image.
Yep.
So guys, let's look at, before we finish for today, let's look at the solutions. How can we support ourselves through our clothes, but also support ourselves to stop and change these experiences so that we don't have to change who we are by the clothes that we wear, and where who we then are and how we experience ourselves becomes something that is highly unstable because, for example, we have to constantly buy new clothes to create that positive experience of ourselves. How can we change that into a supportive and commonsensical relationship with clothes? What is your perspective, Sylvia?
Well, I think when you start dressing yourself in the morning and you already feel this energy charge within you, like, oh yeah, I'm going to wear this because of that, then maybe you better just step back and just slow yourself down and see what it is, why you just want to wear this red blouse, or why you want to have this tight black pants with I was going to say with the mushroom on top of it, but it was the muffin top. And so it's good to just learn and see inside of yourself what it is that moves you. Why do you want to dress like that? And then also what I was saying before, just experiment with it. Just have fun with it and then see what comes up. Because maybe you didn't expect it, that when you wear a dress that you just totally feel different. Because when I slip in this easy dress in the morning in the summer, I know I am going to have a relaxed day. So sometimes I don't have a relaxed day, and then I'm just longing for the dress that is hanging there in the morning, like, oh, I wish I could just slip in that dress. So that's also already an energy charge, what I need to be aware of. And then, well, we can do the self-forgiveness and the correction, but that's already a whole other discussion.
Yeah, we've made hangouts before about self-forgiveness, so you can go through on the channel and find that if you're interested in knowing more about it. Carrie, you were talking about before how you were assisting yourself to see others differently and not judge them based on the clothes that you wear, that they wear. But how have you supported yourself in terms of, for example, you were talking about before you would wear these very high-heeled shoes and compromise yourself. So how's that something that you've changed also with walking the Desteni I process?
It's changing my relationship with myself and why I'm doing certain things, like my motivation. Like with the Desteni I process, like we're making common sense, really logical decisions. And so, like, for example, I'm going to work and I have the sneakers I can choose to wear, or I've got, these platform shoes that are going to make me taller and, make me look longer, but they're very uncomfortable. That moment that I make the decision between the comfortable shoes that are going to get me to where I need to go, or, the uncomfortable shoes that are going to make me look a certain way, that moment that I'm going into that, making that decision, I can support myself to be like, why do I need to look longer? Why do I need to project myself as a certain way to people? So it's why am I not being practical here? So that's how I've used, the looking for solutions to assist me. And like when I'm not going for a practical solution, I'm going for a solution that, fits my self-interest or whatever idea I have of myself at the moment. I know that's a point that I've got to look at.
But it's literally the difference between walking with yourself in your shoes that support you and walking with an idea of who you're supposed to be, or trying to be more, or in this case trying to be longer, where it doesn't support you to do your job better. But there might be situations where it would be required or perhaps beneficial to wear the high heel shoes for a moment. But that's actually a very cool perspective. How about you, Ruben? How have you supported yourself in relation to this topic of changing yourself when you change your clothes?
Well, I don't anymore believe in clothes because Sometimes I try to dress up and I go out and it doesn't work out. And other times I don't dress up at all and then I meet someone. So I don't believe in that. And simply I now what I do is like recently I look all the clothes I have and I realized I have more than I remembered. And I will simply throw out what is broken and then keep what works and what's comfortable. And also for not like, for example, when I was younger, it didn't care how much good I looked with the clothes, but also now if I like try to go for a job interview or in general around at university, for example, it's better to not dress like really racked up or really not like consider a little bit to not go with broken stuff. So simply do what's practical and wear the clothes that are okay, but nothing special.
Yeah, that's actually a very important point that Sylvia was also mentioning, in how you can actually compromise yourself by going like, well, I don't want to be a part of it. Whereas, like you were saying, Sylvia, you can actually be a part of it, and you see that, well, for the moment, that's how the game is played, so to speak. You know, you have to wear certain clothes for certain roles, but that doesn't have to change who I am. It doesn't have to become who I am. So I would say that that's probably the most important insight that we can share from here. And then I really I do suggest going and listening to those 3 eCraft interviews. We'll also place them in the description of the video once it's uploaded on YouTube, because they go much more into detail and support yourself in changing your relationship to your clothes. So guys, we have come to an end of this hangout. Do you have any last words that you would like to share, or any tips that you'd like to share before we finish for today?
Be yourself and don't be your clothes. So.
Cool. Ruben or Carrie, do you have anything else to add?
For me, what's just been supportive is having like clothes like for certain things, and yeah, that's what works. That's what works for me, instead of I don't even know where I was going with that, but what, like, I used to have a lot of clothes, like so many clothes, and I would just go through them like every day, and what I ended up doing was setting aside just everything that I do wear, just like Ruben says, I've got, I've got like a very basic wardrobe. So I just kind of got rid of all those things that, just really weren't supportive for me or not, comfortable and whatnot. So that would be.
Yeah, definitely. And what's interesting also is that what might be comfortable might not be how you would prefer seeing yourself. So that's also an important point to consider. To challenge, like you were saying, Sylvia, experiment. Try on the different expressions. See what works for you. So guys, thank you so much for being here. And next week we're actually going to be doing the hangout on Monday at, it is, let me see, 7 o'clock UTC time. We will place the info for that on our Facebook page, DIP Light on Facebook. And we're going to be talking about how to support oneself through disease. So please tune in. Remember next week that it is on Monday instead of Thursday. We'll also make a note of it on Thursday in case you do forget and you want to still watch the hangout. But if you do want to come and ask questions during the live hangout, it is on Monday at 7 p.m. UTC time. On Friday, we're having another movie hangout, and right now I've completely forgotten what the movie it is. Do you guys know what it is, or do you remember?
No.
Is it Utopia?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, that will be a surprise. So tune in tomorrow to find out what movie we're reviewing. Oh, it's Trainspotting. I'm hearing from my assistant in my ear as he will be hosting the movie hangout. So it is actually Trainspotting, which has been a cult movie for a whole generation That should be very interesting. So don't miss it. That is also at 7 p.m. UTC time. And last but not least, remember to subscribe to the channel, like and share the video, and support. Okay, everyone. Bye. Thank you. We'll be back on Monday.
Bye.